what we've seen lately over the last couple of years, we've seen British Columbia become the highest rate of single parents on welfare. So what the main question is how do we get the people back to work? And through your reporting career of 38 years, you've probably come across so much corruption in British Columbia, and you're talking about the stuff that you experience in Quebec. But how do we clean up that atmosphere and put the people back to work?
Well, a lot of it has to do with the economy, and politicians like to say, elect me and I'm going to provide jobs and I'm going to get jobs. The truth of the matter is that BC's economy largely depends on external forces, whether it's the States or whether it's Asia. And, as those economies go, our exports go. And as those economies thrive, our exports and our companies thrive, a lot of them that are involved in foreign trade. So forget the politicians. They really have very little control over it. I think it's the way the economy is managed from, from a point of view of, we allow so much stuff to come in from overseas because they buy our goods. But what about local jobs? I mean, the best example I can think of that comes to mind instantly was the shipbuilding when the BC Ferries wanted to build ferries.
Oh, you mean the fast ferries?
The fast ferry. No, not the fast ferries, not the ones built by the NDP, which was another fiasco. The ones that were built by the Liberals when they decided to have new ferries, the super ferries there added to the fleet. And instead of giving them to BC companies, they got the cheaper deal, supposedly, in Germany. And they had them built in Germany. Well, do the German workers who worked on those ships pay taxes in BC? Of course not. They pay taxes in Germany. So even if the cost was slightly higher to do it here, we could have provided thousands of jobs to British Columbians to build those new ferries here, and we could have provided billions of dollars in tax revenues, I would think, over the years from income taxes that those workers would have paid to the BC government. So governments fail to take that into consideration. They say, well, we're getting a cheaper quote from Germany or wherever, so we'll just give the contract to those companies there, and instead of creating the jobs they should be creating here, and then even if you pay more for the contract because we pay better wages or we have more complicated wage union agreements, but you get it back when you get it back two ways. You get it back in the income taxes they pay, and then you get it back in what those people spend, because when they get their salaries, then most of them go out and spend it. So you help other BC economies, other BC businesses, but the governments don't think about that, especially in the case of the BC Ferries. It's supposedly an independent corporation, so you know how independent corporations spend money. They do it for the cheapest bang for the buck for their profit line, and they don't care about this is going to provide jobs for the locals, or they don't care about what the benefits for the other businesses in the economy will be. They just want the bottom line, their bottom line, to be as cheap as possible, and we pay a heavy price when they do that.
Yeah, we also have to remember the fast ferries that you and I were just briefly talking about. I heard that what happens is they put gas engines in them, and they should have been diesel, and one of the main ferries on its maiden voyage hit a deadlock and almost sank on its maiden voyage. And
they did hit I believe they did hit a deadhead. I heard that, and I don't know about the technical side of it. That wasn't the NDP's finest hour by no means, but I also believe those ships could have been used. I think what happened is when the Liberals came in, they were determined not to use them, even though they could have been used on other routes. They could have been used maybe on the northern route. They could have been used, and in fact, when they sold them off, I understand that they could have sold them for $90 million at one point, the Liberals, and they didn't sell them. They waited until they were sort of like rusty hulks and waited, and I think they sold them for 19. So you had the NDPs make a total mess of it when they built them. Then you had the Liberals, maybe partially out of some sort of rub your nose in it sort of attitude towards the NDP. They made sure that they didn't use those ships, and they made sure that they got rid of them and really didn't get out of them what they could have if they'd acted with a little, smarter program.
Well, it looks like, Harvey, it looks like we only have a couple minutes left. I really want you to, if you could tell the listening audience about your blog, because you've got tremendous amount of information on there. When you were growing up in Quebec, it talks about the corruption you saw. The McCain magazine talking Quebec's number one most corrupt province in Canada, and about BC stuff too.
Well, the first thing about the blog, I'll tell you, there are no ads on it. It's not, I want to stay independent so I can speak. The best part of the blog, from my point of view, is what I say about the media. And I think people should look at it. I'm on vacation now to mid-November, but just go in there, Keeping It Real or HarveyOberfled.ca. Just Google it, you'll find it. And click on the media thing and see what I've said about the media, because the media love to criticize others, but they sure don't like it when you shine the light on them. And with my experience, that's what I've done. And I'll tell you something, it's made me a lot of enemies among people that used to be my friends in the media. The ones who really believe in quality journalism still support me, still are great friends of mine. But, I've had people I used to work with that have called me Judas because I've turned on they think I've turned on them, but all I'm trying to do is expose when the corporate owners decide to do more with less, the terrible cost we've paid in quality of reporting, lack of investigative reporting, when TV stations take money from the government to huge sums for advertising and things like that, promotional material. I've written all about that, and some of them just don't like it. But it's called Keeping It Real, and that's what I try to do, looking at the international scene, looking at the BC, looking at Canada, and most of all, looking at the media. And it's just a hobby. There are no ads. And when I get back mid-November, we'll go at it again, and I hope anybody listening take part in the conversation. Sometimes the people who write in are much more intelligent than I am when I write these things. I just express myself, and we get some pretty good discussions going on there.
Well, we're going to have to get you back on again there, Harvey. I do apologize for the short period we had to talk to you. There's so many things I wanted to cover. I had 20 questions, only able to cover about 2 or 3 of them. So, well, definitely, I'd send out an invitation for you when you come back, December, possibly January. We'll bring you back on. I'd just like to quickly tell the listening audience you listen to COOP Radio, 102.7 FM CFRO. This is Monday Brown Bagger. My name's Reginald Angus Argue. That was Harvey Oberfled. And his blog is called Keeping It Real, and I really suggest the listening audience to go and read it, see what Harvey has to say. Very informed individual. He is the grandfather, as far as I'm concerned, he is a grandfather of investigative reporting here in the province of British Columbia and many parts throughout Canada. Thank you again for coming on there, Harvey.
Okay, take care.